Yeah, hi.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, I'm Nitin. Sorry I kept you dangling for so long.
No, perfectly okay. Sir, before we start, how much time do we have?
Half an hour, we'll be able to do it in half an hour.
No, that's why I have trimmed the questions already.
Also, I may give longer answers also. You just later on you can edit it and all that.
Yeah. Sir, just before we start, I just wanted to give you a flavor of what the team expected of this interview. See, a lot about you is already there in the public domain in internet.
Correct.
What our community really needs to know is something about Nandan Nilekani as a person, about his initial formative years in Shirshi or in Nilekani or Dharwad.
Yeah.
So a more personal flavor rather than a corporate flavor.
Yes.
Because our readers are not the type who will try to understand about economics and.
Yeah, no problem. Got it.
So we will. I mean, your answers, if you may, I request, be more towards your personal life.
Yeah.
Which you would like to share, and which obviously. So without much ado, first of all, let me thank you for agreeing to come on the interview.
My apologies for delaying it.
No, not at all, sir. So let me start straight away without taking much time. What I'll do is I have trimmed the questions, but I'll just jumble it a little bit. My first question would be, can you share some interesting anecdotes about your formative years in Shirshi or Nilekani or Dharwad?
Yeah. So Nitin, let me explain the trajectory of my life. I was actually born in Bangalore in June of 1955. My father worked in mineral mills, Bangalore. He was a mill manager.
Okay.
And up to the age of 12, I grew up in Bangalore. I lived in the mineral mill colony where, they had a house and so on. And I did my early schooling in Bangalore in St. Anthony's and later on Bishop Cotton Boys School.
Okay.
But in 1967, when my father was when I was about 12 years old, my father had to shift jobs.
Okay.
And, at that time, the whole textile industry was going through challenges and he was not sure where all he would go. He went to small towns like Nirmal and Dhulia and all that. And my parents felt that for the stability of my education, I should be in one place.
Right.
And that's how I ended up in Dharwad. And I was very fortunate. I stayed with my uncle, Madhukar Nilekani, who was he was one of the first corporate farming experts in India, as well as he was a radical humanist, and he and his wonderful family. I stayed with them for 3-4 years. And I shifted my school from Bishop Cotton Boys School, Bangalore, to St. Joseph's Boys School in Dharwad. And then I went to college in Dharwad too. I did my PUC in Karnataka College, Dharwad. So my first 12 years of my life was in Bangalore and then 6 years in Dharwad. And then my parents also moved to Dharwad and I spent a year or two with them when I was in PUC. So for me, these were formative years. My early years were in a city like Bangalore, and then suddenly I moved to Dharwad. So I learned to become more resilient, I think, because of that. Yes.
So this Minerva Mills and Sundata was the same or they're different?
Maybe I'll answer a little later on that question.
Okay.
So, and I used to go to Sirsi on holidays. So I never lived in Sirsi.
Okay.
It was our ancestral home. There we have, the Nilekani family has a family temple, which has been around for 170 years. It has a small areca nut plantation, some old houses. So we used to go there on vacations, but I never lived there. Okay. But I had a wonderful time all the time I went on vacation to Sirsi or even in Dharwad. I had lots of friends and enjoyed my life. I lived in a place called Sarsatpur, which is a colony, in Dharwad with a lot of, which was built by one of the builders was one of my granduncles. So it was really a very nice community that I grew up in. And I was inspired to go to IIT because many of my cousins from Bombay were in IIT. So I had one Gaurang Haldipur who used to live in Bandra. He was in IIT before me. Sanjay Vinekar went, So Gaurang Haldipur was already in IIT Bombay. He was about 3-4 years senior to me. And then Sanjay Vinekar was also there in IIT Bombay. There are quite a few actually people at that time from our community in IIT Bombay. So I was inspired to go to IIT. and particularly to go to IIT Bombay because I had so many of my cousins there.
Right.
And in those days, most people who went to IIT were from big cities. So, but I was able to, in Dharwad, we formed a small group of friends and we studied together and we got into IIT. We were lucky.
Yeah.
And I still remember I went to the interview in IIT Madras in 1973 for selecting which branch of engineering to take and which college to take.
Right.
And my father sent me a telegram saying, join chemical engineering IIT Chennai, IIT Madras.
Okay.
So since I didn't want to follow what my father said, I went to electrical engineering in IIT Bombay. And a lot of that was because I already had my cousins there. So that was strong. So I was in IIT, and that was actually a time when I really learned how to become more social. I was the general secretary. I was active in quizzing and directing plays and doing a lot of things. So IIT experience rounded me as a person.
Right, great. So I think IIT Bombay also brought in your life partner.
Yes, it's very interesting how I met my wife, Rohini. She was studying in Elphinstone College. She is Rohini Soman. She is a Maharashtrian coconut Brahmin. And I was on the IIT Bombay quiz team and I had gone to Elphinstone College for a quiz.
Okay.
And she also happened to be a friend of a relative of mine, Nasima Tagarse.
Okay.
So there's a Bhanap connection there in some way. Okay. And she came for the quiz, and then we got to know each other, and all the friends would meet at Seema's house. That's how I got to meet my wife. And then later on, I met her probably 77, and we got married in 81.
Okay, excellent. So normally, as you know, our Bhanaps, we are a little in terms of, taking up a job or a profession, we are more service oriented. Normally, the pressure from the parents on the child is don't go for business. There is a lot of risk, go for a stable job. In your case, how did you take the plunge to start Infi as such? I mean, was there trepidation from your side or the family in trying to tell you, no, don't go, don't have a startup, go for a job? I mean, understand what I'm trying to say.
No, absolutely. I think you remember this. Infosys started in 1981. And it started because of essentially the leadership of Mr. Narayan Murthy, who at that time was my boss in a company I worked in Bombay called Patni Computer Systems.
Yeah.
He felt that we should have in the software industry is an industry of human beings and their expertise, and we should be running it ourselves. And that's led to the formula Infosys. But there was a lot of pushback from everybody. I mean, I just got married. I got married in January of 1981. And this was, Infosys started in July of 81. So I was just married. I was only 26 years old. And everybody, a lot of people thought, how can you start a business? And everybody said, go abroad, take a job in New Jersey or something and live there. What are you doing? And so there was a lot of pushback. But I think I would not entirely agree that Bhanaps don't do business. I mean, my father worked in Minerva Mills, which was part of the Sirur group of mills, Minerva Mills, Mysore Mills, Modern Mills, Sundatta. So they were, in their time, they were among the biggest industrialists in India, in Bombay. D.N. Sirur was a very big industrialist. So I actually worked in a Bhanap enterprise in that. My father worked in a Bhanap enterprise. And one of my mentors was Mr. R.N. Devgi, who was also related to me, and R.N. Devgi had set up Devgi Metalware. Yeah. And so he taught me a lot about business. Of course, he didn't encourage this. He said, you go and take a job. But anyway, so there was that. But so around me, I'd seen also entrepreneurs. And that's what, and of course, we had the leadership of Mr. Murthy. So I was very comfortable. I was only 26 at that time. And, so I said, I can take that risk. And that's what led to my co-founding Infosys with Mr. Murthy and my other colleagues. And, since then, it's been quite a journey.
So these other people like Shibulal, etc., or Mr. Pai, were they also in Patni or they were in some other?
Mr. Pai was not one of the founders. The founders they were all in Patni. Yes. Mr. Narayan Murthy was our boss.
Right.
Then there was Mr. Raghavan, who retired 20 years back, is about almost 80 now. Then myself, Chris Gopalakrishnan, who became the CEO after me.
Yeah.
Shibulal, who became the CEO after Shibulal.
Yeah.
Then there was Dinesh,
yeah,
who retired also about 15 years back.
right.
And then there was a guy called Ashok Arora, who left in the first 10 years, around 86, 87, he left.
Okay.
Mr. Pai joined us in the early 90s.
Okay. So how was the response from Rohini? Because you were just married, 6 months into marriage and then starting up.
So in fact,
how was the support or encouragement or whatever you want to put it?
Well, I think Rohini was very supportive. To her credit, she took the plunge, and there are two plunges, right? First, she got married to me in January of 81, and then suddenly this fellow becomes some entrepreneur and all that. So it was definitely, but I must say she stood by me very well. Her parents also were nervous in the beginning. So they said, they were also wondering what I was getting into. But I think overall, after a few years, they all realized that it was the right thing to do. But she was very supportive all throughout.
Great. Sir, let me now shift tracks a little bit and come to the area where you took the plunge into the political mainstream.
Yeah.
So what sort of experience would you like to look back upon?
Yeah.
And how do you, looking back, what would be your feelings about the decision that you took? Do you feel that it was right at that point of time, or do you have regrets, or whatever? What are your feelings?
Yeah, so let me explain briefly my brief political career. What happened was, to step back a bit. I worked in Infosys as a co-founder, director, CEO from 1981 to 2009. And then the UPA2 government came and they invited me to do something in the government. And that's when I took up the Aadhaar project. Yeah. And I worked in government in Delhi from 2009 to 2014. And I felt that, I'd done something successful. Aadhaar had reached 600 million people and all that. So I thought, how can I get more things done? And that's what sort of made me think of joining politics. I said, if I become a elected MP, then people will take me seriously and all that. But that in retrospect was a mistake. I found I was not suitable for that. I didn't do badly. I got 5 lakh votes in Bangalore South, which is quite good. But my opponent got much more, about 7 lakhs votes or something. But it was also, I realized that politics was not my game. That I was really better suited for.
Sir, I think it was not that you were not popular or something. I think that the wave, I think you probably got swept by the wave.
Oh, that is definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah, because
but the whole, I learned actually it was a very good experience for me. It was a humbling experience for me. I had been successful all along till then. Infosys had been a success. As a CEO, I had been a success. I had done a successful job with Aadhaar. So sometimes when you have too much success, you think you can do anything in the world. Yeah. I think in that hubris, I went into politics. But it taught me a lot. I realized that I'm not really cut out for this. In many ways, for example, one of the things I realized is that my Kannada speaking skills were not great because I had not practiced it for so many years, right? And unless you can give a very effective public speech in this language of your constituency, you can't really connect with voters. And many things. I discovered a lot of things about myself. And but even then, losing was a humbling experience. And then I said, okay, this is not my cup of tea, standing for elections. But let me do other things and let me leverage my skills, whether it is technology, building systems like Aadhaar, or whether it's the business skills. Let me put that to best use. Right. And that's what I did post the elections. So my political career was just some 3 months or something.
Okay. So there's a lot of buzz in the internet and in the public domain about the present Prime Minister Modi trying to work with you or you trying to work with him on something to take on Amazon and Flipkart. There's some such news in the domain, public domain.
Yeah, it's not to take on anybody. It is just to democratize e-commerce. So just to give you some background about my connection with the Prime Minister, I had first met him in 2012 or thereabouts, where I had gone to Ahmedabad. He was the chief minister of Gujarat at that time, and he spent a lot of time with me. He spent 90 minutes with me, and he told me about his life, and we talked about Aadhaar and all that. And then after the election was over, in the election, Aadhaar had become an issue, and there were rumors that they were not implemented. So I went and met the Prime Minister on around July 1st of 2014, and we had a very good meeting. And he's a very technology savvy person, and he knew the value of Aadhaar. I think he was planning to do it anyway, but I think my meeting also helped, and he became a big champion of technology and inside the whole Digital India program. So we did Aadhaar. Then I was the advisor. I am the advisor to the NPCI, the National Payment Corporation of India, which is the payment company of India set up by RBI, belonging to the banks. And I help them with the vision and conceptualization of UPI, which has become a huge payment platform in India. So I had this experience of how to build population scale infrastructure, and I've done many things of that nature. So the current initiative is something called ONDC, Open Network for Digital Commerce. And the idea being, can we unbundle e-commerce so that different suppliers, different logistics companies, different consumer-facing companies can all work together and create an end-to-end e-commerce solution by connecting all these things together through what we call as protocols. So that is the idea. I'm just one of the people involved. To be fair, I'm a member of an 8-person advisory council, and but I'm also involved with this or thinking through how it will work. So this is really the idea that every small shop in your neighborhood should be able to be on e-commerce.
Right.
So the whole country should be. So it's the idea is how to make it inclusive.
Right. Recently, I was listening to the Prime Minister's speech in Germany, where he announced that 40% of the entire global digital transactions, India is contributor. So
that is because of the UPI. UPI has been an extraordinary success. Last month alone, it did about 5.8 billion transactions. And in the last financial year, it did $1 trillion worth of transactions. So it is by far the largest and most effective digital payment system in the world. It's also designed to be very high volume, very low cost. It's free to the users. And today, when I walk around Bangalore, I go for a walk. There's a vegetable cart vendor takes UPI payments. The coconut seller takes UPI payments. So it has really penetrated everywhere. So that's why I think that's what he was talking about.
So if 40% comes from India, how is China behind us or almost on par with us?
Well, I think China is lower than that. I remember seeing some chart, which I am thinking is the same chart. India is definitely the leader in payments.
Okay, great. So what do you think are India's biggest challenges? Do you see the economy as vibrant? I'm sure you do. Maybe some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the Indian economy is at a very interesting point. We have had a difficult time thanks to COVID. And COVID definitely affected lives of people. Many people slipped back into poverty because of lack of jobs. People who had jobs servicing other people, like people in restaurants or anywhere where there was human contact, they all suffered. Whereas those of us who had jobs that we could deliver on Zoom call or video call, we managed, right?
Right.
So it had a big impact on many people. But I think I'm quite bullish now that thanks to technology, the digital infrastructure India has, the growth of so many startups which are trying to change India in many ways. The global IT industry, which Infosys and all are part of, is growing dramatically. So there's a lot of job creation there. So I think India has a good chance. Of course, we have to think about inflation. We have to think about job creation for many more people, because the jobs that are being created only benefit a few million people. But we really have to mass produce jobs by, create lots of jobs by getting the economy to work, simplify business rules, allow small companies to get credit. I think all this is required, and I'm sure that will happen. I'm quite bullish that.
Bullish about it.
Well, yeah.
I've taken help from a couple of senior finance experts before talking to you. One of them asked me to ask you. He said, "How much ready are we to reach the level of digital transformation vis-a-vis the USA, and what is it that we need to do, and what are the major roadblocks?
Yeah, well, in many ways, India has better digital systems than many parts of the world because we built it much later. What happened in the West was that technology rolled out 30, 40 years back. And the thing with technology is that you can't replace old technology with new. Whereas if you don't have any technology, you can leapfrog. So the technology in India we have done, whether it's Aadhaar, UPI, account aggregator, FASTag, ONDC, electronic vaccination certificates, which we all got when we got our vaccine certificate, all that infrastructure has been created. And it's in many ways ahead of what's there in the West. And today, India's digital infrastructure is being looked at by all countries. And as digitization becomes even more important for India, I think it's going to be important. So, but broadly, in the first 10 years, we did things like payments, identity, all financial kind of things. Next 10 years, we're going to see education, health, skills, AI, all that becoming a big thing in the Indian digital journey.
Right. So you also talked just now about when you go for a walk, you see vegetable vendors, bhajiwalas having, phone pay and whatever. Yeah. Do we see this penetrating deep into rural, villages?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. See, India is a unique thing. India is a mobile-first country. In other words, Indians got access to the internet only through the mobile phones. They didn't have desktops like they had in the West. And the mobile revolution, thanks to people like Jio and Airtel, has gone to every nook and corner of the country. Smartphones are becoming cheaper and cheaper. In fact, Jio and Google have come together to create a new cheap smartphone. So that penetration is going up. Data is the lowest prices for data anywhere in the world. So people are able to even watch video and IPL games and whatnot very easily. And of course, we have the transaction systems like UPI. So when I talk to a lot of startups, I find that a lot of their activities is not in the big cities. It is in tier 2, tier 3 towns. There's a system we built as part of Aadhaar called Aadhaar enabled payment system, which allows people to withdraw money using a smartphone with a biometric, and that all the transactions are in small villages. So as long as connectivity is there and phones become cheaper, the software infrastructure is there to reach everybody.
Sir, one area where probably we as the entire nation and everybody needs to do much more is to prevent e-frauds. Do you think this is an area where we can really tighten the grips?
Yes, definitely. In some senses, also the very ease of what can be done leads to fraud because, it's so easy to make a payment that somebody will send you a message and you think it's a genuine request and you lose money. So, but I know that NPCI and RBI is very concerned about frauds. They're doing a lot of tightening up. Ombudsmans are there. Fraud analytics is being used. We're using big data and AI. Online dispute resolution is coming. So I think there's a big effort that as we put in place a digital infrastructure for the country, the concomitant fraud and online dispute resolution is also put in place.
Sir, with your heavy schedule, busy schedule, finding time is always a big challenge for you. How do you practice work-life balance?
Well, I have a pretty good work-life balance. I do a few things. I don't try to do too many things. I have a very disciplined approach to digital, for example. I've written a new book recently with Tanuj Bhojwani called The Art of Bitfulness, about being calm in the digital world. So I don't use social media, and I don't spend my time on all that. And so I'm very focused on a few big ideas. Corporate side, Infosys. I have a fund called Fundamentum. Then of course all my public work. And I go for walks. I go to the mountains very often. I go to the Nilgiris often. And I go for walks morning and evening. And I have a pretty relaxed life, Jen.
Do you get mobbed on the streets when you go for...
Oh, not. Oh, no. Anyway, once you wear a mask, nobody can recognize you. So what is the problem?
No, but otherwise, okay, mask is something new.
Not really.
But people must be recognizing you.
Yeah, but to be fair, people are very conscious of my not privacy order. They don't comment. Not often, sometimes, but not often.
Okay, great. We're coming towards the end. And sir, what is your message to the Bhanak community, particularly the youths per se?
Well, I think that the young people today in the community have fantastic opportunities. I think all over the world and wherever they are. I think the world is, of course, there are a lot of challenges too, but there are lots of opportunities, and and they all need not become entrepreneurs. Of course, they can become entrepreneurs. It's become much easier to be an entrepreneur today than 40 years back when I started as a co-founder of Infosys. But they can also, they can become engineers, scientists. I think it's all about whatever you choose to do in life, do it with passion, with a search for excellence, with commitment, with focus, and enjoy life at the same time.
Yeah, great. Yeah, but my last question, or rather last two questions, which by far you think is the most satisfying highlight of your illustrious journey so far?
Well, I think, two things that stand out for me. One is, of course, my whole Infosys journey, which actually has two parts to it, because I was an operating executive in Infosys for the first 30 years, from 1981 to 2009. And then I have had a second stint at Infosys from August of 2017, when I became the chairman, where my job is not so much executive as to run the board.
Yeah.
So that has been very fulfilling. And then, of course, the work I've done in public systems, leading the Aadhaar effort, helping the UPI, now working on ONDC, because I really believe that technology properly used can benefit the whole country. So that these two things give me great satisfaction.
Great. With so much of success behind you, I'm sure it's not going to, you're not satisfied with where you are. What are your future goals and aspirations?
Well, it's not about being satisfied. I think it's about, as long as you're able to,
wanting more.
Yeah. So the way I see it is that I've been very blessed and fortunate in my life. I've received a lot. I've got tremendous support from my family and extended family, and so if I can keep adding value, if I can keep making a difference and help improve things, that's what gives me satisfaction. So I'll continue to do that, Nitin.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving time. And what we will do is we will convert this into transcript, and then I share it with you and Aparna.
Yeah. All right.
And thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much.
Bye. Bye. Nice picture by Nita.
Yes. And do you know the story behind it? I'll take a minute. She sent me a couple of pictures, paintings of hers, which she does on canvas of other objects. And since this was on my mind that I must cover you, I just asked her whether you do a portrait. She said, I've never done a portrait. I said, I'm covering Nandan. Would you like to do that? She said, no, I'm a little hesitant. I've never done it. I said, try it. If you're not happy, don't do it. And it's come out quite, beautiful.
Great. Okay.
So she told me Pranati is carrying it for you one of these days.
Okay. Fantastic. Super. Thanks, Nitin.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.